New Mexico came out and really, really got after us and kind of sped us up in the first half. And, we had some uncharacteristic turnovers but credit them. They were, they can turn you over. They weren't doing it in the full court, but they were doing it, trapping us and then really aggressive on the ball. And I thought they kind of set a good tone, and we were kind of a little slow to respond. But I, in the old days of this tournament, in other years, the teams that were playing on the first day were not NCAA tournament teams. So now you've got NCAA tournament teams. Now they got a game under their belt. I mean, we all know how good this league is. And, that's an advantage nobody wants to have. You don't want to have to play for it. But the team that, they played great yesterday, and they carried it over into today, and they have good momentum. We looked like a team that kind of was a little slow to get going. And because maybe of us. I think our guys were ready. It's just I think they really came in and they were carried over from yesterday, and they were firing on all cylinders. We have a lot of great teams in this league, and a lot of I think we secured 6 bids now, and you take UNLV's first 4 weeks of the season out. And really, that's 7 NCAA tournament level teams that are in this league, and because UNLV had been playing as good as anyone, and so. But give New Mexico a ton of credit that was a team on a mission, and they got veteran guards that were on a mission, and I saw that tonight, and I said that to one of my guys today. I'm pretty sure. Jalen's not going to miss shots tonight, and he was great. He was taking it to the hole, and it's not like it's a surprise or they sneak attack you. It's just one of those things. It's easier said than done to keep those guys from getting to the hoop, and then also they took some of our misses that we had a couple late when we were making a good run. They just kind of rattled in and rattled out, and then they go down and get a lay-in at the other end, the big, huge 5-point swings that we needed those to drop. But again, like I said, we battled back the second half, and I really like the way we competed. And I got a team that always responds in the greatest way, and we get another chance to respond next week.
Thank you, Coach. Questions for the student athletes?
Yeah, Braden Nurse with the Mountain West. Just what kind of stood out to you about the way you fought and didn't let this game get away from you, and what would this win have meant to you guys?
I think one thing I would take away is we competed till the end. We cut to 4 or 5 with like 30 seconds left, and we were still in the game. So I'm really proud of our guys to fight till the end, and it would have been a big win for us. But you just gotta learn from this experience and go on to next week.
And Tyson, 23 and 12 rebounds on a night where you guys probably didn't rebound as well as you would have wanted to. Just what was your mindset going into it as far as physicality and doing those things?
I don't think we had the physicality that we needed to have in the first half, and I think we came out with a great mindset in the second and really competed and just left it all out on the floor.
Coach had already mentioned about how they trapped. They found some success in trapping you. How did they do it differently, though, than a couple weeks ago in Boise?
I think they came right off the pass instead of letting it dribble a little bit, and I think we had a good game plan of trying to get Roddy to the middle. We just didn't do a good enough job of hitting him and letting him make a play.
They are also a team that has been very open about how you guys have been able to get the better of them. You guys had won, 5 or 6 out of the last 7, and it's always been about size, and they know who they are. They got 3 short guards that play it off a lot. How are you guys able, when you guys have beat them, to exploit that, and how are they able to sort of just maybe get the better of that matchup today with those short guards?
Yeah, they put Dent on me today, which I thought was a smart move by Patino, and it kind of took me out of my game a little bit. And they also doubled. I think they were playing harder today than they did in the last 2 games. They knew what was at stake tonight, and they played really well.
Max, Leon kind of alluded to, House was going to make his shots tonight. 12-9 in the first two games against you guys, 29 tonight. What was he different about his game?
I mean, he did good at getting to the line. I think he got to the rim also better than he had been against us. But he's a talented dude, and we know that. He just played well tonight, and he's been playing well all season. He just struggled against us the last two times, and he was due for a good one.
Tyson, just, you guys made a couple runs there in the second half, but it just seemed like every time you guys did, they had an answer. How frustrating was that, you'd get close and then it'd be a 10-point game again?
It's definitely frustrating. We're making those runs, cutting it to 4. We just need one stop, and we just weren't able to get it tonight.
Early in the game, some of those turnovers led to easy. I think their first 7 points were off turnovers, and then you're kind of playing catch up the rest of the game. Just the start and their crowd getting into it right away, and you guys just kind of seemed just not in sync for a good chunk of the game. How surprising was that tonight?
It was pretty uncharacteristic for our team. We just got a little sped up, and knowing from our past experiences in the NCAA tournament, you can't dig yourself in a hole like that because it's harder to dig yourself out. I mean, we were down 19 to Memphis and almost dug out of that, but it was too little, too late. So definitely something we'll learn from to take to next week.
What did you see, Max, just in terms of why it just seemed like you guys were not really in a flow and out of sync and just wasn't your typical performance tonight?
Yeah, no, we were fine. Don't get it twisted. That's the most talented team in the Mountain West, like top to bottom. I do not envy the 6-7 seed that has to play them in the NCAA tournament. So we were ready. It wasn't a matter of not being ready. That team is, when they're locked in, they're going to beat a lot of teams in this country. So they played better than us tonight, and that's that.
You got to remember that team was 18-3 the first time we played them, and they went, I think everyone at that time was like, this is the best team in the Mountain West. And it's just the Mountain West is so good. It's just there was ups and downs for everybody, and you saw a team that played up tonight. But it's not like they haven't done that, previously. They were, remember when we went down there, they were beating everybody by 30, everybody, and so that, like Max said, it's a really, really good team. I mean, when you have that many good guards and those big guys, they're terrific, and so it's not, it's not like, that was a really good basketball team that has veteran guys that, they knew what was at stake. I mean, it's, they needed this tonight. So did we. It wasn't like we didn't come out and have, and get out and compete. We competed. I think it just got us. We just took us a little longer to get going. And like you said, then you're kind of battling uphill. And had we came out a little bit better, I think, who knows? But.
And for both of you guys, just how do you feel, just about, you guys have responded a lot this season when, after a loss and things, just going into next week, regrouping and getting a chance, obviously, goal to make history next week.
You got that?
We'll just take the time to rest up and wait for Selection Sunday, and then we'll just see where we're playing and get prepared for whoever we're at stake with. I mean, this team with our backs against the wall has always played the best, and now with the next loss, our season's over, so our backs are really against the wall now. So I know our team's going to do a great job of responding and recovering over this next week.
Max was talking about it today. There's probably only a small handful of people that have seen every single Boise State game in a Mountain West Conference tournament, and I'm guessing you're one of them. It's not very often that you can probably sit here after a loss at the Mountain West Conference tournament and still feel pretty confident on Selection Sunday. So along those lines, just curious, what is your feeling going into Selection Sunday?
Yeah, I really like our resume right now, and I think it's only going to get better with Colorado State winning tonight too. They can move to a quad one for us. That'd be our 7th, I think, quad one win. So I think we're sitting really pretty. It's just a matter of staying confident and staying together as a team. But when you look at our resume from top to bottom, I think we're doing really well, and this will help New Mexico's resume also. So yeah, I think we're in a good spot.
Okay, I'm going to dismiss the student athletes at this time. We'll keep Coach for a few more minutes. Thanks, man.
Leon, I'll pick it up right there, just what I was talking with Max about. It is not too often that you guys have been able to sit here, after a loss in the Mountain West tournament and still feel pretty good about going into Selection Sunday. How do you feel about going into Selection Sunday with the body of work you've done?
I think it's beyond pretty good. It's terrific. And, this was the best the league's ever been, and we finished second. A game, a free throw here or there out of first. I mean, really, when you think about it. But so terrific. And the chair of the committee, the thing that jumps out at me, he said, we're going to reward teams that went out and scheduled, check, which we did, and then won games away from their home, which, we got some high quality wins, especially in the league. So you couldn't ask for, I think we're being undervalued by some people. We'll see what the committee does, but we got a really, really good resume when you look at who we played, and night in, night out. It was pretty impressive. We, played NCAA tournament teams all over this schedule, and we beat a lot of good ones. So, you look at the amount of quad one wins we have, really no bad losses. I mean, not much more you could do, really. Obviously, you win every game. There's a lot more you can do, but really, our guys are juiced up about it. We're ready to go. I mean, you got to just shake this off and move on. When you're in a great league, it's the team that plays the best that wins, and that's what happened tonight. They played great.
You've been so adamant about how you want to continue to grow this program. I remember days where it felt like your family was basically the only people that traveled to Las Vegas, and now you look up there and there's you get a nice following. On that note too, you look over at New Mexico and what they bring here. It almost felt like it was a semi-home game for them tonight. What do you think of their support? And as you guys could grow, what do you think of your support?
But you're right. What a great atmosphere for a late game, and our fans are more and more coming, and you're just building it brick by brick and getting more and more interest. Wish we could have kept them around for a little longer. But yeah, it did. It felt like a road game tonight, no doubt. The New Mexico fans showed up, and they always have. I mean, I don't remember very many times when they didn't in my 14 years here, or 13 years in this league, and but it was a great Mountain West crowd and good atmosphere for a tournament game, and I'm so grateful to the fans that did come, and sorry we couldn't keep them around for tomorrow's game too. But
Leon, they had a 40-20 edge on points in the paint, and I think in the first half you guys only had 3 field goals that weren't threes, and you took 34 threes tonight, and their dribble penetration was hurting you too. I mean, just how do you look at that give and take? I guess were you having tough on the inside, and they were having some success in there.
Yeah, and that's where we've had a bit of an advantage. But it's one of those things. Guarding them is easier said than done. You know what they're going to do, but they finished. I mean, Donovan Dent, man, he finished as good as any guard in the country when he gets in there. And there's a couple times where we bodied him up pretty good and seemed like we contested pretty good, and he still finished it. And so again, hats off to those guys. It was, he had 22 points off 9 shots. That's pretty darn efficient, and made good decisions all night, handled the ball, that kind of stuff. So, like I said, just tip of a cap to those guys, and it's going to be interesting the rest of the way in this tournament. See what happens.
Leon, it felt like the looks were there. I mean, Max had an in and out that I think makes it a 1-possession game there. Roddy was getting to the basket at will, but was having a hard time finishing. It just felt like there was a lot of bunnies that were missed tonight. Was there a common denominator with it, or is that just how it goes sometimes?
That's just, and that was more in the second. Roddy got to the paint pretty good in the first half and didn't finish any of them. Second half, he did a better job of getting in there and mixing up, finish some, kick some. We just settled down a little bit and got better. But it was a big play. Max had a 3, and it looked like it was in, and it rattled around, and then it rolled around, came off, and then they laid it in. It was a 5-point swing that would have cut it to 3. And that's, if that goes, who knows? But that's basketball.
Right here.
Coach, so the team only shot 29% tonight, 29.4, but you guys were still able to scrape together 66 points, and it was only a 10-point loss against New Mexico. Played fantastic tonight. So what can you say about how your team fought despite the ball not dropping?
We compete and we battle, and if If we didn't do that, yeah, you could have got blown out with all those. And look at those numbers, no doubt. And it was a 4-point game with 30 seconds to go. that after all that, it was a 4-point game with 30 seconds to go. Our guys never quit, and they battle. And they don't. I've had, we've all seen teams that when the ball just won't go, and it just affects everything. And our team is pretty good about keep fighting. And we got 18 offensive rebounds and kept fighting there, and kind of flipped the boards a little bit in the second half. But they knew that they had to control that or be close even with us to win that game, and they battled on the glass too. So just a good college basketball battle.
Leon, kind of the same question I asked Max. When you're able to shut down House, a score like House for 2 games, how hard is it? You know he's going to be motivated coming into the third game. How hard is it to do it a third time?
Yeah, I felt that today. I just okay, he's not going to miss. We're not counting on him missing tonight. And these veteran guards, he knew that it's win or go home in both tournaments. Really, probably is where they, who knows, but that's how they approached it. And when you have veteran guards that are playing for their lives, that's what he looked like tonight. So, and all of them, they were clutch down the. They made their free throws down the stretch when we were fouling. They did what they had to do to win.
And then just kind of depending on if you get if you get a Thursday slot, Friday slot, it's going to be one game in 13 or 14 days you guys have played. Do you kind of embrace that rest, or do you kind of worry about rust, or?
Say that again.
Depending on if you're playing in Thursday or Friday, it'll be one game you guys have played in the previous 13 or 14.
Oh, at this time of year, any day that you can get any rest is a blessing. It's a blessing because it's a long grind of the season, and we'll come in fresh, excited. It's the NCAA tournament. It's the greatest sporting event there is, and there won't be. Yeah, now we'll play a great team because they did something to get there too. So. But we'll be excited, ready to go, and there will, that's how it is in that tournament.
Last 2 questions.
You already alluded to Donovan a little bit, but I wanted to go more into Donovan Dent. 22 points. He drew 8 fouls. He had 5 steals on the defensive end.
Yeah.
His kind of complete package has grown so much this year, even though he's playing with Mash and House and 2 guards kind of in his same spot. Can you talk about the growth you've seen as an opposing coach over the last 2 years in Donovan?
Oh, yeah, and we knew that was coming, But it is hard, that's a hard – because you got 3 guys that need the ball in their hands. And so credit Coach Pitino and his staff for figuring that out. That's a hard thing to figure out, and it's a hard thing to get those guys – because they all, when you have 3 guys like that their strengths are pretty similar, it can affect, because one guy's doing it and then the next guy, well, I got to go do it too, and it can have a negative effect because they all can do that, and they've settled in nicely and they've figured out roles nicely and how they can all coexist effectively, and that's what it looked like tonight. I think it's the accumulation of a season of learning and growing, and they're settled into something that looks pretty good right now.
Real quick, I know you already kind of alluded to that you think they're getting in now, and they thought their win tonight probably gets them in.
Yeah.
Assuming they're in, what kind of a matchup problem? I know you don't know who they're going to play, but what kind of a matchup problem does a team like New Mexico present, just in general?
Yeah, it's so many good guards, and so, we keep talking about the guards. Those big guys are terrific too, and they're like I said, like Max said it, they're one of the most talented teams in our league, and that's saying something. And when they're clicking, like I said, when they were 18-3, when we went down there, they were clicking. But like every team, you go through a valley of death, and you go through but I don't envy the team that they draw. Good luck.
Last question.
Leon, I think if we learned anything through the Mountain West this year, night in, night out, it seems like the tougher team wins. It's not to say that a team's not tough on any given night, but as you go into the NCAA tournament with your past experiences, have you ever been this prepared from an opponent's strength of schedule wise to face what you will at the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, but it's NCAA tournament so much about matchups too. So that can you look at some of the past ones, and I've been to, I think it's 16. I'm not sure, but the matchups were everything. I've had good ones, I've had bad ones, I've had over the course of my whole career, and you just don't know. And you just don't know what breaks you're going to get, what matchups you're going to get, and that's for everybody, not just us. But if you can keep going back enough times, pretty soon you're going to break through, and that's you just got to put yourself in that position where you can keep going back, keep having a chance, and then maybe you get the right matchup that fits, and just fits your style, that kind of thing. Like an example, what I'm talking about is one year at Gonzaga, we were the #1 rebounding team in the country, and we ended up playing the #2 rebounding team, Wyoming, down at the pit. And that kind of canceled out our strength. Had we played a team that wasn't a great rebounding team like we were, we might have had a big advantage, but the rebounds were even, and it canceled out. So that's what I mean by the style and the. So you can't control that. You just, just see where it falls, and then you just got to go out and play. And then the other thing, you got to be able to. You can't go shoot 29% and get it done. You got to make some shots. It is a game of making shots. Even it's hard, but that's the thing that we've done a nice job of. Is our guys compete and compete and compete. We shot 29%. We were down 4 with 30 seconds to go. But you got to make some shots to beat good teams.
You always say, when there's 4 home games left, you remind Bronco Nation, hey, there's only 4 home games to see these guys. You guys are down to 1 guaranteed, game left. So how does the message evolve, I guess, as you guys are literally playing for tomorrow from here on out?
Yeah, and that's, like when Max said that, it hits you because we've enjoyed each other. Our guys, this has been, every team's been great for their own reasons, and, enjoyed coaching them. This team, I've never had a group where the 30 of us just have such a good time together, working, grinding, competing. It's just been a joy. And, it started back in our trip to Canada. So it's a long, long journey, but we've really kept good perspective too. We've stayed in the moment. So these guys, they don't want it to end, and they'll do anything not to have it end, and that's what we get the opportunity to do. And when you get to this tournament, you're going to play somebody really good. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. And so we're going to have to play a great game. But these guys are not going to want it to end because none of us, there's some teams out there that they're done. They're tired of the whole thing, and that's hard, because it's such a long season. But not this team with us. We're going to fight and scratch and claw to keep it going.
Okay, thank you for your time, Coach.
Thank you, guys.